I am Eugene Lee. This is Give Yourself Some Leeway. And in today's episode, I want to share with you what it means to be a high achiever. Now, you don't need to be Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos to benefit from these traits. So if you enjoy what I'm sharing here, please hit like and subscribe. Now, what is a high achiever? To put it simply, high achievers are people willing to go that extra mile to make things happen. They do it both for the sake of helping others and to feel proud of themselves. Always striving for the next big thing is how they find meaning. Would you call yourself a high achiever? I always found personality tests and the likes, I always take them with a pinch of salt. But I have noticed that loosely labeling and identifying with things like being a high achiever or noticing that I'm highly sensitive to certain triggers, it can help you see things that you may not have noticed before, certain strengths and weaknesses. So that's why knowing you're a high achiever may help you pinpoint certain strengths and how to leverage them. At the same time, it can show you that maybe you've been overlooking certain areas of your life and help you pay more attention to those areas that you've neglected so far. That's why, from my experience, knowing that you're a high achiever may help you pinpoint certain strengths and how to leverage them. At the same time, it can show you what you've been overlooking and make you pay attention to those areas that you may have neglected so far. Now, before we dive into specific signs of your behavior that make you a high achiever, it's better to understand what it means to be a high achiever. Now, I'll try not to get too technical, but this is just a brief summary of what it means to be a high achiever. In the theory of human motivation, David McClelland pointed to 3 general needs that motivate people to do anything in life. These are a need for power, a need for affiliation, and a need for achievement. Different personalities are driven by different needs. The need for achievement is the main fuel for the actions of high achievers. They're motivated by the prospect of accomplishing something important and making a difference, both in their own lives and in other people's lives. Now, to summarize McClelland's theory, the main characteristics of people driven by achievement are a strong need to set and accomplish challenging goals, taking calculated risks to accomplish their goal, enjoying regular feedback on their progress and achievements, and a general preference to work alone. In the workplace, high achievers can provide energy for the whole team. Have you ever worked with someone who always pushed things forward, no matter what? Maybe you were involved in a project and it was obvious that someone had screwed up. But there was always that someone that, no matter what the odds were, they remained enthusiastic. They did their best to fix things, no matter what the cost, even when everyone else saw the chance of success being scarce. The basic desire of high achievers is to feel valuable and worthwhile, both to themselves and to their team. By contrast, their main fear is to turn out worthless. When operating at their best, achievers accomplish great things, and quite literally, they can make their communities and even whole societies move forward. My favorite example of a high achiever is Arnold Schwarzenegger. From a lowly country Austrian boy to bodybuilding champion, Mr. Olympia, Hollywood movies, and then governor of California. It's hard to deny that people like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's hard to deny how much of a difference they made to this world. So how can you tell if you have the traits of a high achiever? One way is to examine your day-to-day behavior for these signs. So high achievers tend to measure their worth by the results of their work. If a need to achieve is burning strong, You feel inadequate when it's not met. The first question to ask yourself is, how do I feel when things don't go as planned? For example, you may notice a pattern at work. When you're perfectly productive and appreciated by your team and by your boss, or you resolve a difficult problem, you feel good about yourself. But then you make a minor mistake or you fail to deliver on time, and that quickly sets you back and it puts your mind at an all-time low. It's typical for high achievers to tie their self-esteem to the results of their efforts. So if you notice a strong connection between them, it could be a sign you're a high achiever. Keep listening. You rarely use phrases like, I can't, or it's too hard. If you're driven by the need to achieve, admitting that something is too hard may border on impossible, because it would contradict the identity you aspire to, which is one of a go-getter. High achievers have this internal mindset that they must be in control. So when it comes to obstacles, they're motivated by them, not discouraged by them. To say I can't or it's too hard would feel like giving that control away, giving that power to an external circumstance, rather than using your internal resources to overcome that obstacle. So if you find it hard to say, I can't do it, or to say no, even when things are super challenging, it may be a sign that you have an achiever personality. High achievers do things instead of talking about them. Now, everyone procrastinates to some extent, but if you ever do that, it's in silence. No one ever sees you as a procrastinator because you don't talk much about your plans. You do things first, and only then do you talk about them, if ever. And people around you admire and respect this more than you may think. You probably hear friends asking, how do you have the energy for all that? Or how do you find the time to do all that? Deep down, you feel a resistance to do the hard things just like everyone else. But you realize that by not doing them, it would bring you even more discomfort. Thanks to that trait, you're able to stick to commitments when most people just give up. This can sometimes make others uncomfortable in your presence because you can outrun just about everyone when it comes to willpower. High achievers often forget to rest. 100% I am guilty of this. I mean, does this sound familiar? It's 8 o'clock in the evening and you're sitting down for dinner. You start eating. It occurs to you how tired you are. Suddenly you realize it's the first time today that you're actually sitting down, not rushing from activity to activity. You've been literally running on full power all day. High achievers tend to chase accomplishments even in their free time. Even if they have a spare half an hour, they'll try to squeeze in an extra gym session or maybe listen to a podcast. Every minute is precious to them when they're pursuing their goals. As a result, they forget the true purpose behind rest, which is to withdraw from any goal-oriented activities. They end up trying to optimize their downtime to serve a bigger purpose. 100% I am the most guilty person of this. High achievers have a greater appetite for learning than their fear of failure. Now, no one likes the idea of failure, and I'm sure you're no exception. But even if you feel like a perfectionist, you don't let that stop you from moving forward on a task. For example, if you wanted to run a business, or maybe you just want to start a business, you'd rather experiment with all the different techniques and different ideas on how to launch your business or how to generate leads, rather than make no step at all. You understand that mistakes are an inseparable part of growing the business. You'd rather meet your fear of failure head on rather than letting it control you and never doing the work. High achievers find it easy to focus on something that they care about. So to achieve goals, you need to put your attention to them. This may sound trivial, but most people fail to implement this. But not you. If you want to make things happen, you understand that there also needs to be trade-offs. You can't write a book without giving up some Netflix time. You can't raise healthy kids without making time to exercise with them and cooking them healthy meals. Any goal worth pursuing requires energy and focus. And even if sacrifices are required, making them tends to come naturally to you. If you care about something deeply, focus simply follows. You don't try to conjure a new reality and simply wish for these things to manifest, wait for them to just happen. You know that there is effort required, and you're happy to make it when it truly matters. If you can identify with any of these behaviors of a high achiever, congratulations. I mean, you have abundant resources to make your life what you want it to be. You understand that you don't need to be a billionaire or a tech giant to be a high achiever. High achiever personality traits can be teachers, doctors, dentists, butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. I mean, we walk all different paths in life. You're driven, you're passionate, you're capable of directing your energy towards the things that matter in life. Recognize yourself for this. Take a moment to appreciate that these qualities shouldn't be taken for granted. A lot of people take years or even decades to develop the kind of resilience and discipline that you have. At the same time, as a high achiever, you may care so much about your goals that you drive yourself towards unhappiness. You hold yourself to such a high standard and you're raising the bar constantly that you tend to assume responsibility for all your goals and all your efforts, that when things don't go your way or when everything goes wrong, you assume responsibility for the failure, even if you did your absolute best. So one nugget of advice that I'd like to pass on from one high achiever to the next is that you need to break that mindset that your self-worth is tied to the result of your efforts. When you don't reach your intended goal, you don't have to see it as a bad thing. Sometimes the best thing in life is to learn from our failures and just move on. Sometimes embracing the role of being the observer who simply accepts whatever unfolds is just as rewarding. Well, I hope you liked this episode and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, subscribe to the show, because it makes sure that you don't miss out on new episodes. And it also helps me because it increases the rankings of the show a little bit, which of course makes it a little more easily found by other people who may like it just as much as you. And if you didn't like this episode or anything about the show in general, or if you have any ideas or suggestions or just feedback that you want to share, shoot me an email, eugene@leeway.ie, and let me know what I could do better, or just what your thoughts are on what you'd like to see me do in the future. I read everything myself. I'm always looking for new ideas and constructive feedback. So thanks again for listening to this episode, and I hope to hear from you soon.